state your name and your organization?
Oh, sure. So my name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. The spelling of my name is C as in cat, H as in house, A as in apple, R as in rain, L as in light, T as in tag, O as in orange, N as in navel, Charlton. And then my last name is D'Souza, D as in dog, S as in school, O as in orange, U as in union, Z as in zebra, A as in apple. And I'm the president of Passengers United.
So tell me about this incident today.
Devastated. Our members are devastated. Many of our members are scared. You're on the subway and someone comes in and they throw a gas cylinder and they're shooting at people.
You mentioned it was a gas cylinder?
Yeah, that's what people said because there was smoke coming out of there. I don't know if they call it a smoke bomb. Some people are referring it to a gas cylinder. All I can tell you is the people in this community that I've spoken with today, many of them are shaken up. This is something that will remain with them for the rest of their lives. And this is an experience they'll never forget. As far as the safety approach, which is what we cover at Passengers United, I'm just frustrated with the elected officials in this city. We've been calling for cameras in the subway cars to protect people. And one state assemblywoman in particular, State Assemblywoman Jessica Ramos, I had spoken to her about 2 weeks ago about putting in cameras because MT workers are getting assaulted on the train, they're getting assaulted on the platforms. And I said, what's wrong with putting a camera inside a subway car? It would help the NYPD, God forbid, if someone gets attacked, at least you have footage. You know what she tells me? Oh, we don't need extra surveillance cameras in the subway because that's spying on people. So this is the level.
But they're in public.
Right. Right, they're in public.
And I've seen videos of crimes, fights, assaults that happen in the subway cars themselves. So
you need surveillance in the subways. You need to have law and order. And we try to work with all the elected officials. That's our job. But right now, we're not a lot of the progressive elected officials, they keep talking on their talking points. And I told them, I said, come ride the subways with us. So the MT chairman, he was supposed to ride the subways with us overnight. He agreed to do it, Jano Lieber. He hasn't done it with us yet. But here's what I can tell you about what we are doing. At every MT board meeting that I've been at, I keep talking about the need of having a multi-layered security approach. So you need, private security guards in the subway system patrolling the turnstiles and, the high entry.
Private as opposed to police?
No, we need police in the subway. But the problem is the police right now are overstretched because a lot of them are working 12-hour, 14-hour tours. They're doing details. So years ago when my mother worked for the transit police, you had a dedicated police force just to cover transit, and that's all they did. Now, it used to be called NYC Transit Police.
Oh, okay.
That was a part of the MTA. That was different from the MTPD. MTPD used to cover Long Island Railroad and Metro North.
Oh.
So in the 1990s, when Mayor Giuliani was mayor, he merged the New York City Transit Police with the NYPD. He merged it, and then the housing police became NYPD as well. So now, it's good that you have one police force, but the problem is the elected officials haven't put enough funding to have more police officers on the force. So right now, there's not enough NYPD police officers. They cannot be everywhere. So what I'm saying is, if you have private security guards, in stations, that's one layer of security. Then what you could do is have a team of 7 police officers at the express subway stations where they could do something called train order maintenance sweeps. It's called TOMS, where they come in the system, they do a train sweep, and they board the train and they eyeball everyone and they look for potential trouble, or someone
Let's say someone who appears homeless and he's like cursing everybody out. Maybe,
exactly. Or maybe,
I've seen that, yeah,
you've seen that. Or someone who's strung out on drugs. Maybe they're just stretched out. So the problem is the MTA rules of conduct are not being enforced. They haven't been enforced. And at every MTA board meeting, I've been pleading with the board members, that the rules in the subway need to be enforced. And right now anything goes down there. I was at West 4th Street last night. What do I see? 5 people shooting up needles. Every night, I've even had to break up fights in the subway.
Wow.
I held a guy down for the police in District 20 in August. He had exposed himself to 2 women on the train, and the guy had 2 priors. Guess what? He's out the next day. The district attorney let him go. So,
This
why?
is Manhattan, so it's Alvin Bragg, right?
This was in Queens
so
with the other district attorney. But what we're outraged is, so the individual that did this attack today, he knew that he could come to the subway station, do this attack, and get away with it because subway security is a joke. And I'm sure this guy must have canvassed the station days before because this thing seemed planned. So, you know, what I would say to everyone, call your elected officials, call your progressive elected officials, and tell them, look, we have to get to work safely. Many people are being forced to spend $80, $90 on Ubers because they're so afraid to get in the subway. You know, our elderly people are being attacked. People in the Asian community are being beat up. They're being punched. 2 weeks ago, a transit employee, a station agent, she was sexually assaulted at the Rector Street station. Coming out of the boat, a guy attacks her. There's a lot of stories that's not making the news, and a lot of the things the MTA and the NYPD, well, the NYPD is trying. The mayor, Eric Adams, I'll give him credit. He's way better than de Blasio. I mean, de Blasio didn't have a clue of what he was doing. Eric Adams is trying, but the problem is the MTA is a state agency, right? So you need the governor and you need the state legislature to put a rule that people cannot sleep in the subway, they cannot shoot drugs, they cannot be loitering in the train stations, and right now that's not being enforced. So when terrorists like this, you know, this individual who did this horrendous attack, when they see that the subway system is out of control, it's the perfect opportunity for them to come in and do these, you know, do this terrorist attack. And God,
And you feel it's a terrorist attack?
right, and the MTA and the Commissioner Sewell today, she said on the news at the press conference, this was not a terrorist attack. Listen, 29 people injured, that's what I was told, it might be more, 10 people shot. How the hell can you say this was not a terrorist attack? And she's the police commissioner. I don't know what's happening. I don't want to prejudge people. Maybe they know information that we don't know. But when you shoot 10 people and you put a smoke bomb in the subway, that is a terrorist attack. You're disrupting people's lives. People could have been killed today. And according to what I was told, the gun didn't even jam up. If the they said,
Glock, was it?
yeah, they said it jammed up, but they said he could have shot more people. So we're just fed up. And you know, Adam, we've been dealing with this for 3 to 4 years, pleading with them. I'm always sending you guys press releases. We're not getting anything from the subway, from the management at MTA. The only good thing I can say is that the chairman is willing to talk with us. He did promise at a board meeting that he was going to ride the subway with us, but on one condition. And the condition was he wants to be with the security detail. And I told him, I said, no. I said, you have to come like a private citizen, come in the system. Don't tell the police, don't tell anyone you're coming.
Plain clothes.
Right. And just see what's going on. Because, you know, no MTA employee comes to work to be urinated on, to have things thrown at them. You know, so there's a sense of culture. There's a culture going on that people are so scared now, you know, and it's
Now,
this.
what do you think people are attacking MTA employees?
Well, a lot of the MTA employees I talk to, they're telling me their cabs are being broken into. You even have 17-year-old kids now going in the tunnels, changing the roll signs. They're vandalizing trains. This is happening at the City Hall
roll
station.
signs?
Yeah, roll
What's
signs.
that about?
So, you know, on the older trains where you have the Q train, F train roll sign with the destination sign, what the kids were doing was they're breaking into the subway cars, ripping the signs apart and taking them home. They're vandalizing the trains. And this is happening at the City Hall station, which is right above City Hall. So if people can walk in a tunnel and take YouTube videos and put this on social media, what's to say a person who wants to put an explosive device or wants to do something, they could just come in the system and do it. So, you know, I just feel like our government and our city officials, they missed the opportunity on getting ahead of the situation. This incident today didn't need to happen. And then you have other organizations like Riders Alliance, which says, oh, you don't need police in the subway. The subway is perfectly safe. So, we're just frustrated. But I would just tell everyone, call your elected officials, hold rallies, run for office. That's another thing, run for office. And, let's get some common sense elected officials in there. And then the thing with the homeless contracts, with the social service providers, the Bowery Residents Committee, they only have 25 to 30 caseworkers, and we have 472 subway stations in our system. So the new SOS teams that the mayor deployed, a lot of them are not making, some of them are making less than $25 an hour. And if you want good people, good highly trained social workers, you need to pay them because they're losing people. The turnover rate is very bad over there. And then you're asking them to deal with violent EDPs. That's a very toxic situation. So I feel like we do need more social workers in the subway, because right now a lot of the 911 calls that come in overnight, 80% of the calls are EDPs. So if you had social workers dealing with that component of it, then the cops could focus on the crime and they could just focus on the security. But right now, a lot of the police officers are being asked to intervene in these situations. And then with the mayor breaking up the encampments. So
they've been doing a good job with that?
Yes.
What have you seen?
They've been breaking up a lot of the encampments, but here's the problem with that. It looks good on TV, but if you don't have shelters for them to go, guess where they're landing up? They're landing up in the New York City subway system. So that doesn't solve the problem. It's making it worse for the riders, And don't get me wrong, I sympathize with the homeless. There's a lot of good homeless individuals out there who come in the system, they take shelter, they don't bother anyone. But the problem is you have individuals who are off their medication. Many of them are, after the fourth day of being in the subway system, they get very violent, they become very antisocial. And that's the situation that worries me. And when you have elected officials saying, oh, it's okay for them to sleep on the subway, they're just trying to keep warm. What I say to those elected officials is wake up, use your head, and come down here and see what's going on. They're not doing that.
Are you noticing them enforcing everyone has to get off at the last train stop?
179th Street, sometimes they're letting the homeless stay on. Even at Jamaica Center, because you have to understand,
Would you say it's inconsistent?
It's inconsistent. They're letting them stay on the train, and the problem is the crews are scared, because a lot of the crews, when they walk from the back to the front and they see a person sleeping there, you don't know if that individual is going to jump out and attack you. So there's a lot of fear right now with transit employees. And even though we do cover passengers, we work hand in hand with our brothers and sisters in labor, because they get us to our destinations every day. They transport us there. And so what I want to say to the mayor and the governor, New York City is not going to come back as long as you have a tax like this. So in order for the city to come back, you need to have private security, every subway station as one layered approach. Then you need to have police sweeping all the train cars, overnight or even during the day where, they walk through. And it's, the train order maintenance sweeps, back in the day they used to do that. And there was even a time when Mayor Bloomberg was in office where they used to go on the train and the police, the conductor, would make an announcement and say, there's a police officer on the train. If anyone needs a police officer, please press the intercom. They don't even do that anymore. So, so you just need these common senses approaches. But another reporter had asked me, how come we don't search people in the subway system, where we scan their bags and we make them go through a metal detector?
Remember they used to do random bag checks?
Right.
They set up a table, I don't know if they do that anymore.
They do, but it's not all the time. It's only in areas where the NYPD deems that they're having like major security issues. But that program, to me, if you're going to do that, do it in every subway station. I feel like there should be metal detectors, but then how would people get to work? That's what people always tell me. Oh, that's a ridiculous plan. It couldn't be done. However, if you go to India, in India, everyone is searched before they enter the metro. You have to go through a metal detector, your bags are searched, and guess what? They don't have any crime in the Indian subways. You go to Asia, you see how high-tech their systems are. So, like I said, New York City has a wonderful subway system, but our elected officials, the people that don't understand what's going on down there, they're ruining our system. And I'm sure there's going to be people who say, oh, don't blame the elected officials. It's not their fault. No, they're the ones who run the agency, they appoint the board members, they create the laws, they create the funding. So yeah, it's the elected officials' fault. They need to do their job. They need to stop on their talking points. Like I was talking with the congressional candidate who's running for Congress in Staten Island and Brooklyn. And she tells me, she says, oh, we need a social aspect of it. So the community needs to come together and talk and have a dialogue. I'm like, listen, when you're on the subway system at 2 o'clock in the morning and people are getting attacked, forget about dialogue. You need operation. So I think the elected officials...
Do you think they fear speaking about enforcement and police action?
Yeah, a lot of the DSA members are afraid to come out on that. I've even spoken to Congresswoman AOC, and I told AOC, I said people have to get to work. And the reason why you see so much of traffic right now in New York City is because everyone's afraid to get on the subway. For me, for instance, I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's some nights I take 3 or 4 buses to get home. Only because my mother, she always says, please don't get in a fight. Don't hold someone down. Because, she doesn't want me to get stabbed on the subway, God forbid. People always telling me, please, Charlton, be careful down there. Because a situation could change. Like that guy that I chased in August. When the detectives called me from the Special Victims Unit, the detective told me, don't ever do that again. Because in 30 seconds, he could have pulled out a knife, he could have pulled out a gun, and you could have been dead. So you're dealing with very violent individuals down there. But, we're Passengers United. It's an honor to serve the public. We're going to continue helping people. I'm not going to give up on that mission, and despite the fact that we don't even get paid and we're volunteers, we're doing a better job. There's organizations out there that's making millions of dollars. We never see them at meetings. And, they're talking with the elected officials and they're saying, oh, you don't need cops on the subway. And, this is the problem. So, when you don't have people who are operationally grounded, when these directors and board members of these organizations, these nonprofits, they're not in the system. Like the guy from the Coalition of the Homeless, he makes over $390,000 or something. And I'm saying, wait a minute, where's the money for the homeless programs and the outreach programs? And even Thrive NYC with de Blasio. That whole thing, he should be put in prison. That whole thing should be investigated. Because where did that money go? No one's answering these questions. To this day, we still don't know where the money went. And then today, Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, I heard he resigned as Lieutenant Governor. So I had a run-in with him. I had sent you the video, and I had asked him and the governor. I pleaded with the governor months ago outside the New York Public Library about the conditions in the subway. This was even before Michelle Go had died. And she brushed me off, and she said, she just brushed me off. But Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin did say they were trying to get more funding in the state, which I understand in this budget, they did get additional funding to open up some of the mental health beds and stuff like that. But what I always tell the elected officials, why is it in New York, if you're homeless and you're a single man, there's only one intake center for all 5 boroughs, and that's at 30th Street and 1st Avenue. So all these elected officials are talking up a good storm, but why don't you change that? Why don't you open up intake centers in every borough and have more facilities open? And these contracts need to be audited. There needs to be accountability with these social service providers, because a lot of them are not doing their jobs, and it's having an effect on the subway riders. So me as a subway passenger, I'm not trying to be mean, but if I paid my $2.75 and I'm going to work in the morning, I shouldn't have to be in a train car where you have 5 or 6 individuals sleeping in the train car. They're smelling of feces or they've urinated all over the floor. That's not right. You know, I mean, the elected officials, they don't get this. You know, they don't understand that doesn't help them. That doesn't help the homeless individuals. So I think out of today's incident, I'm just hoping that the MT will put surveillance cameras in the newer subway cars.
These weren't working, I heard.
So at 25th Street, at the subway station over there, by the turnstiles, we were told that the surveillance cameras were not working. So thanks to the good work by the NYPD, they were able to go and get the surveillance footage from all the stores. And I'm assuming that's how they got the image of the suspect. So we do thank our NYPD. They're working very hard. Many of the officers, you know, they're not getting the respect of the community in many parts of the city. And the elected officials are just throwing them. They're just being very mean, and they want to cut their funding. But you know what I say? We need our police. And not only that, we need auxiliary police. And a lot of these progressive elected officials, they don't even want auxiliary police. And I'm saying to myself, what? You don't want volunteers from the community volunteering for the police? So, you know, that's what I'm telling people. Listen, if you see the news and you're frustrated and you're angry, you know, don't be upset. What people should do is run for office, and also kick these people out in June. Throw them out. That's it, because we have to get our city back. This is the city we love. I love our subway system. That's why I'm the president of Passengers United. And, you know, it's an honor to ride the system. You know, when I was growing up as a kid, I loved riding the subway. It was an enjoyable experience. Now, that's been taken away from our younger generation. They can't go on the subway, even our elderly. They cannot go down there. They cannot enjoy the experience because when you're down there, you have to have eyes in the back of your head. You're just worried, am I going to be shot? Am I going to be stabbed? And it's sad. You can't even close your eyes. You have to keep your eyes open and you're always looking. Am I going to be attacked? Like last night, I was on a crowded F train. There was a guy right next to me, you know, and my eyes was scanning. So I feel like we've just become conditioned to this, and it shouldn't be that way, you know. So
thanks again, Charlton.
Yeah. And thank you, Adam, for doing what you're doing. We're so proud of you and stuff like that. So
thank you, man.
Yeah.